Libra, hi, great to see you. Please come on in, make yourself comfortable. Do you know, I've got some sad news. Look, I've just got home. I was asked by family to come in and speak with a lady at a local hospice who was about to cross over, and to provide her comfort and solace to know that there's nothing to be afraid of. And on the way back, I got the call to say that she did pass, so sadly, I won't see her in this life here, but I may see her in this life here again, and with any luck, she might be with us now. She's certainly very welcome. But it's always difficult for families, isn't it, when that happens? And my thoughts are with them. Look, I'm going to use a deck. Incidentally, I will mention, forgive me if I've told you before, but your Libra 2020 yearly reading is loaded, and if you just search Nigel Libra 2020, that will take you to the video. Let's have a look at this deck and see what it has to say. I'm going to use the Hands of the Enterer first, which is a shamanistic practice of mine that brings in spirit, and that's done the job. I'm using a deck painted by a lady in San Francisco called Eden Gallanter, a young artist who I'm happy to plug, because young artists need some encouragement, I think, because they provide so much joy through their art to other people, and yet often for so little return. Unfortunately, most artists' works make money after they're dead, don't they? So this deck is called the Cheminée deck. Now, I don't normally mention decks, but I am in this case. So let's see what there is in store for you, Libra. This month of December, this is coming out, the very busy month of December. Fortitude. Well, you might need some fortitude in December, who knows? Christmas coming up, Hanukkah, a couple of very important Hindu festivals as well. Let's see what there is in store. Usually a busy time, although people, I hope, have recovered intact from Thanksgiving, those of you in North America, and often dealings with families, which can be challenging, can't it, sometimes? So we shall see. Let's have a look. Here's something coming out for you. The World. Well, I've got to say, I've seen the World before sometime today. Now I get the Priestess, I get very, very good results with this deck. I don't know what it is about it, but the imagery on it, which you probably haven't seen before, it just hits a chord with me, and it invokes the spirit consciousness, plural. That is, now there's four cards here. I'm going to take the top two, shall I? So let's see what they are. What was that one there? The Priestess, the Prince of Cups. And what's this? The Ace of Staves, as Miss Gallanter calls them in her deck. Okay, why don't you come and sit down next to me, okay, as is our usual practice, and have a good look at the imagery on these cards. Concentrate on the imagery of the cards, because that's important, while I do the reading for you. Okay, here we go. Now, wow, look at this. Here we have the Ace of Staves here, completely surrounded by the very positive energy of these major arcana and being looked at by this Prince of Cups. So I think it behoves us, does it not, to have a look first at this Ace of Staves. Well, the Lord of the root of the powers of fire. Now, I think the people who could well be important to you during this period include Leo, Virgo, and Cancer. And this card, if we look at him, we have a person who is, I'd say a man, balanced on a stave. Balanced. He's in balance at the moment. Crescent moon above him. There is a circle or a egg, infinity really, on his forehead, and the serpent winding around him. He is balanced. He is full of potential. Now, this is a signifier of, I think, the signs, the fire signs of Aries, which is going to give you leadership and instill desire into you. That of Aries, which is going to enhance your character and provide you with a lot of energy during this period. And that of Sagittarius, which will give you great insight into other people and also, I think, have a welling up within you of some degree of philosophizing about the world and yourself and your place in it. This is really about potential, and the way this card is surrounded by these other cards here says to me that it has a particularly important message for you. And that message really is this, I think, that there is nothing you cannot be, there is nothing you cannot do, there is nothing you cannot have. You are the most magnificent, the most remarkable, the most splendid being God has ever created. For who could reject such wondrous magnificence? But you do not know who you are, and you think you are a great deal less. You are your own rule maker, and you are the only one who can assess how you are doing. All you see in the world is your idea of it. Life will take off for you when you choose for it. An idea becomes a thought becomes a word. Say the word out loud, because words have power and they reverberate into infinity. A word becomes action. If you are going to do it, start. And when you start, go all the way. Do it, do it, do it. Seize it, rejoice in it, and let no power on earth take it from you. Now, I think what this is doing is it is suggesting that this is a time in your life when you might well have a breakthrough moment, I think, of insight and feel inspired and motivated to move your life forward. A big opportunity is going to open up for you, so be prepared. You have the possibility. Aces are about potential. You have the possibility of tapping into your latent potential, that hidden potential, that potential within you, which you have not yet brought to the surface. This is the perfect time to draw upon your imagination and make your dreams happen. Spiritually, I think this is a time to rewrite your life. I think there may well be a deeper desire for spiritual self-discovery during this period, and of course this applies to anybody who is 18 as much as it does to someone who is 80. I think I'd have this thought in mind during this period that I express my energy and my power openly. Yeah, my power and energy, I express them openly. Well, let's go and have a look to see what this card sitting above it, which has been bringing to the surface many of those thoughts, and it is this card. Here she is, the priestess of the silver star. Here is a woman, sleeping within herself, it seems, sitting upon a throne, which to me is very reminiscent of the color and when we look in the night sky, of the texture of the moon. This figure here seems to me to be like a rib cage, and encasing within it this splash of ochre or red, encasing her heart. Well, there is the moon here, and the moon represents cycles and going with the flow of life. I think this is a time where you will be able to access your intuitive powers, that of healing and independence and inner equilibrium, I think, and increasing self-confidence. Possibly you'll have psychic ability, I think. I do think that that's the case. You may well be able to engage in divination and find out what is going to happen in the future. You'll discover your own truth. I think you'll get in touch with your spirit guides, and you'll have a great degree of emotional stability around you. Yet, your skin is cool and pale in the moonlight. Not even night can cool the embrace of your arms around me, nor darken the glistening silver-white substance of our love. I close my eyes, and it shields them not. Rather, you grow brighter still. Your eyes lock on mine, unblinking and uneclipsed. O mother, O lover, O child. Yeah. I think it's important that you guard against information being withheld during this period. Guard against secrets. Be careful that you don't dismiss your intuition. I think that this is a period where you need to rely upon your intuition. Be careful of not being lied to. Well, when I say be careful of not being lied to, I think what I'm saying is that you'll be able to look behind the words and the eyes of other people, and you will be able to gauge the true intent of their words, where they're coming from, and you will be able to have an understanding as to what the real agenda is. I think this is a period that can represent a time when you may be able to establish what I would think is and I would characterize it as a very platonic relationship. That is, a relationship that is close, and yet it's not romantic or sexual. I think there's an opportunity for that to occur. I do think, however, that you will have periods of alone time during this month, even though it's so busy, and that is to work out what you really want and to let your mind process things. And you will know, of course, that changes on the inside are necessary to make changes on the outside. I think there'll be a need to connect and be more confident with your intuitive or feminine side. Now, the men listening should not have any concern about that, because both genders have the other gender as part of their makeup. There is a female or feminine side to men. It's just that the masculine side predominates, and conversely, there is a masculine side to women. It's just that the feminine side predominates. I think I see balance, intuition, insight, independence, self-knowledge, and I think you'll be unwilling to limit or to restrict yourself or other people during this period. This could be the beginning, I think, of a very creative cycle for you. You'll have an increase in your self-esteem, and you'll become aware that intuition is in fact a gift. I think it is a time when you will be, well, discovering what I call the oasis within. So that takes us then, what's up? Where shall we go next? Shall we go to the Prince, or shall we go to Fortitude? I think we may well go to Fortitude, because what does it have to say? Let's have a look. Here we have the figure of a woman. Well, I take it as a woman. It could be either male or female, that is riding a headless horse. The horse, which is representative to me of our human carnal nature. And I note that the woman has wings and is sitting reverse on the horse. Now, of course, a horse without a head and galloping at full speed is likely to go where and do what? Well, certainly there's some danger can sometimes be attached to it, can't it? Just as there can sometimes be some concern and danger attached to our carnal and human side and living life as a human. But then there is the awareness of this spiritual side here as well, which is saying that don't be afraid, because the whole time you should understand that you are a spirit living a human life. You are not a human which has an insight into spiritual issues from time to time. You are safe and you can fly away safely. Well, the daughter of the flaming sword, I call her. This is the sun ruling Leo with Uranus exalted. And it's about having a lust for life. You know, this is joy of strength. This horse exercised, its vigor and the rapture of vigor as far as I see it. I think that here is a period where you will have great courage, you will have great strength, and strength of will and of character. Well, we were talking about that earlier, weren't we? Great strength of will and strength of character, and you'll have control of your life forces. Now, it's got to be said, there's no doubt about it, that this is it's a card which for me talks very much of emotional and physical togetherness, which may or may not be long-term. It is a card which says to me that there could be a love affair which starts up, and for those who are already partnered and who are interested, of course, in pursuing another love affair, I make no moral judgment, of course, then I think that there is going to be an invigoration of a relationship, that partnered relationship that you have already. You will have the confidence and strength to say what you're going to say, and you'll also be able to listen intently to other people. It's a question of intellectual muscle over physical power. It's a gentle power, one that comes from confidence and conviction. You are the rose to my cross, find new life in my heart. You are the moon to my sun, and I the wine to your cup. I pour the whole of me into you. I think you may well be challenging conventional views on what constitutes a spiritual life. You may be a member of a church, and you may say to yourself, look, I understand what's being said here, but I think that there's probably more stuff outside of what's being said. I'm going to take a more elevated view, a more elevated approach to what's going on. A lot of the material that you provide is certainly suitable for children, but is it necessarily suitable for adults? I don't know that it is perhaps what you'll be saying. What this is also saying, the energy that I'm getting here, is that you are not going to be punished by God for how you conduct your love life. Not at all. Guilt and self-inflicted punishment are wrong in these areas. I think this can also relate to an energy I'm getting here, is that you may well have a passion for a particular pursuit. I think there might be something that you develop an interest in, and it becomes a real passion, and you start to really go into it and go into it in depth. I think that you will start to think, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to start living life to the fullest. And I'm going to have vigor and joy in everything that I do, and I'm going to be mindful of everything that I do. I'm going to watch everything that I do and be aware of it at all times. And I think you're going to accept your sexual desires for what they are and rejoice in them, but obviously without letting them, throw your life out of balance. There could well be, as I say, a sexual or emotional relationship that's actually got quite a degree of intensity associated with it during this time. And I also think that it's quite possible that you'll be doing something simply because you actually really like to do it, and without overthinking it. I think that's really the case here. Well, here we have the Prince of Cups. The Prince of Cups. Gee, the first thing I have to say, I'm getting a lot of Libra out of this Prince of Cups, but I'm getting a tremendous amount of Scorpio coming from it as well. Libra is there, but I'm getting a lot of Scorpio energy coming from it. Now, the Prince is, esoterically, princes are represented by air, and cups, of course, are represented by water. So the Prince is the airy part of water. Now, in elemental dignity rules, air and water, they strengthen each other, but they are neutral. However, with the influence of Scorpio in this month for you, and in this position down here, you see this, I'm getting a lot of, for some reason, I'm just getting a lot of Scorpio that's pouring down from this as well. But here we have well, let's just leave him like that for the time being, shall we? I think what we have here is that with the air and the water together, combining with Scorpio energy, I think it makes him quite an intense character. As a fast river flows, so does he, trying to get the most out of life possible. And I think that what we can say, though, about him is that, well, I'll be blunt about it. He is someone, I think, who is completely without conscience in the ordinary sense of the word. He is perfectly ruthless. He cares intensely for power, for information, and his own aims. And he doesn't feel any responsibility for other people, and he can't be relied upon. You know, he looks after himself, and everybody else comes second. I think, however, he's and when I say a man, it could also be a woman, because these court cards, I mean, they're drawn as a prince, but it's the energy that's there. And the energy can apply to either gender. But he's someone who's actually quite subtle. There's a sort of a feeling of secret violence around him, of craftiness, you know, sort of street smart sort of feeling about him. I get very much a feeling about him that he's sort of calm on the surface, but deep down he's actually got that boiling intensity that's underneath him. He could well be somebody in the arts, or he could well be someone who's facing, who has that sort of artistic talents which need to be applied in a practical sense, which can involve sales, it can involve marketing, it can involve people who are dealing in education or healthcare. That is, those people who have a lot of interpersonal dealings with other people, where you kind of put on a face in order to get things done. That type of person is one that's there, I think. I think the overriding message, and I'll go into some depth about him now also, but I think the overriding message that's coming through from him is, I think you have a song in your heart. You have a song in your heart, and what you need to do is to open your heart and let that song play. That's really what I'm getting there. I think that what we can also say about him is, though, that I think he's saying to you is that this could well be a time where you need to have, or there could be sections during this period where you go through some rest and healing that has been necessary, usually after a period of something that's happened in your life. And you will go through that healing during this period. And this time will allow you to mend before you go back into a more productive phase. Now, of course, if you don't use the time wisely, then the cycle is only just going to repeat. Now, with this Prince of Cups, when this comes about, it's because he's exhausted himself from periods of passion, in his case, sexual passion, or loss, because he's a risk taker. And as you know, risk brings reward, but it also has a downside to it as well. And this is particularly because of this influence of Scorpio that's around him. I think he's also saying that, look, it's possible that unless you really set your expectations at the correct level in relation to some people, then you are liable to be disappointed when they don't meet what otherwise might have been your expectation about it. So he's saying to you is to set realistic expectations, and also in relation to things that you want to get done during this period, also set realistic goals. I think he's also saying don't shut yourself away if something has disappointed you, or you've been disappointed by someone. Don't shut yourself away, even though you may be going through a period of healing, but still make sure you go and try to move your life forward after that episode. See, for the prince, he lives life on the edge, and he can experience loss, which is inevitable at some point for people who live life on the edge. So just set realistic expectations. But there is nevertheless here a vibe that's coming through, which is talking about a great potential for balance and harmony. There's an intensity to relationships here. And I think that's resonating with this Scorpio energy that I mentioned that's ruling this card. And it adds, that Scorpio energy also adds an emotional depth to sexual relationships, giving them an intensity. It doesn't just mean sexual fulfillment, I think, but I think it means getting the most out of life by living it to the full and using that energy of Scorpio that's there. But wasn't this card also saying to you, look, you really must make sure you do live life to the full? Where do we go then? Have we done these? Here we are. The World card. Let's have a look. I will say one thing about this. If this is a person in your life, the downside of such a person is that they can be cruel, selfish, and reckless. So just be on the guard about that. And he's also someone who can shed a lot of insight into other people's lives, because he's usually been there and done that himself. And so he's able to give good advice. Now, I'm not saying you've been there and done that yourself, but I do think that you may well be called upon by people to ask your advice about things, and the advice that you give them will be good. I'm not trying to say that you are the Prince of Cups, if you know what I mean. Anyway, let's have a look at this card here, the World. Well, the World, of course, is the last of the major arcana, and it is really the great one of the night time, isn't it? Here we have trees and a snake going through in the middle there, surrounded by these orbs, may well be planets, and there's an eye poking from the snake that's there. I think what this is really saying to you is that, and this is interesting, I'm just having this thought that's coming through now, and it is, you are the entire universe of love, of delight, of joy. Let me be also thus to you, O coiled light within me. In the light and in the night, let me be the vehicle of your love. Yes, let me be the vehicle of your love. I think that I think you might find that there is now the completion of a project. Your efforts are finally paying off. I think it might have been quite a long haul, hasn't it? And yet I think that this has come to the end now. You're almost there. It's a reminder to finish what you've started. I think you'll be learning to take control of your own destiny, to become the captain of your own ship. And you'll have the power of your will to get things done. Yeah, really much the case of that. Could well be a lot of travel or travel-mindedness or international sort of thoughts going on, I think, with you during this period as well, interestingly. I think that this is an energy here which is really one of completion and initiation. I think you'll be gifted in simultaneously completing the old and in initiating the new. able to bring change into large institutions or structured organizations. Now, change should always be done just marginally and at the edge, otherwise they don't work. And I think that you'll be quite ecologically minded during the period, interestingly. You will, I think, have a desire to experience as much of the world and its people as possible. I think that probably before the age of 21, this is saying that there may well have been a sexual block which has since been overcome. Now, though, something is ending and beginning at the same time. And maybe a desire to travel. Could well be a desire for you to study, to get on top of a particular subject, because, you know, this was saying that you were going to be perhaps having a real lust for a new subject, you know, a real verve and interest, and want to get on right on top of a new area of knowledge. I think you'll overcome any sexual reticence that you have in relation to things, provided the things that you do are consensual, of course. Look, my suggestion is this: trust your perception and make a list of all unfinished situations whose resolution would give you a sense of relief. And I have this affirmation in mind: I am one with the universe. I love to travel. I love to explore the unknown. I am excited about bringing ideas and creative projects into form. I deeply value making a contribution that makes other people feel good and the world a better place to live. Well, that's the way it is for you this month. There we go. December. Your December reading. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed giving it to you. Now, don't forget, make sure you check out your 2020 yearly reading. Just search for me, Nigel 2020, in your sign, and you'll get it. I thought you were fantastic during that reading. You were outstanding, and you played your part to perfection. And really, all that remains for me to say is this: that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Until then, bye for now.